For the last time in 2025, 2026. Oh, thank God for that. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the From the Valley Floyd podcast. My name is Callum and Paul. I just saw Paul come into the into the thing. You confused me for a second there. My name is Callum and I will be your host as always. And with episode 65, we finally hit the end of what has been an interesting season. Up, down, merry-go-rounds, all the rest of it. It feels strange to think that it started all those months ago with the news that Thierry Small was heading to Preston, and we were signing a player I don't think any of us really knew anything about in Sonny Carey, who would go on to be obviously our top scorer. But yeah, it's been up and down, gone everywhere from Middlesbrough to Swansea, and everywhere in between. So thank you. Just want to say before we start going through everything, thank you to everyone that's hopped on, joined us on. I want to use Jonathan Jonesism, the journey. Numbers have been going up. I'm really, really appreciative. So thank you all so much for joining me, listening to me sort of mouth off on Charlton and everything related. So thank you all very much. Quick update. After this, I'm going to go and take a break. And then for a couple of weeks, not from football. I've got football matches to do. Take a break from this, just about 6 weeks or so until the window opens, and then I'll sort of come on sort of ad hoc as transfer news comes in, and we start to reshape the squad for Nathan heading into August, and obviously the first round of the Carabao Cup, which will be on a weekend this year because the EFL likes to mess with us. Let's just really quickly chat about Swansea, and then I'll bring Paul in and we'll do a bit of a season review. If you've got any questions for us, please do chuck them in the comments. Got any comments on what we're talking about? Let us know. Any opinions on who you'd like to keep, get rid of, players you'd like to see a little bit more of or more from, and we'll be sure to discuss that. We went to Swansea yesterday. A game obviously didn't matter, right? People are in banana suits and Power Ranger suits, and one guy was dressed as an Oompa Loompa. Fair play to him. It was a game that meant pretty much nothing. 21 that wasn't Nathan Jones. Some of the songs from Swansea fans I think went over the top, but hey ho, who cares? Starting 11 was very much what I think most managers would do: play all the lone players, and then you know that someone gets crocked, it's more likely to be one of someone else's rather than yours. Wasn't a particularly great game for most of it. It was pretty even. First half, all I can really remember is Kaminsky making one very good save. Was it off Sopotnik? Was it Sopotnik or Cullen? I can't remember who it was. But other than that, it was a pretty nothing sort of game. Midfield two of Connor Cody and Connor Coventry is never going to set the world alight, I don't think, in terms of forward passing and progressive football. Lyndon Dykes was a statue most of the game. I thought he was absolutely dreadful. But to be honest with you, it didn't matter, as I say. I don't think to the players it really mattered. Reece Burke got an hour and then was taken off. Did he do anything wrong? No. Was he particularly good? No. Just kind of meh. Good to see Thomas make a couple of stops. Made another one in the second half when we came out. Swansea just had more quality at the end of the day. First goal, Lyndon Dykes doesn't track. The run on the right-hand side. Luke Chambers kind of lets his man go. He tucks in. I hate when fullbacks tuck in like that, but hey-ho. Luke Chambers tucks in. Ball comes across. And was it Sopotnik? Who just sticks it in the bottom corner. Nothing goalkeeper can do from there. My mobile goes into the bottom corner. The second, we then equalised through Miles Leeburn. Lovely header. This is what you should be used for, I think, more as an impact sort of player, especially when you're dealing with a back four. And that was as short as Swansea's was. Nice corner whipped in. Again, I think Chambers or Fevre, I can't remember. And Miles Leeburn knocked it in the bottom corner. Nice little finish. Second goal is pretty inexcusable. Harry Clark loses the ball. I think, as we'll chat about it with Paul, but that's a player I very much think, unfortunately, I'd like to now see the back of. after the last couple of weeks. Loses the ball, tries to drive forward, drives to nowhere, loses it. Ball comes across, and if Mackie Gillespie drops his head, that's right at the goalkeeper, it's an easy save off of Adamida. He doesn't. He sticks his head on it, flicks it above the goalkeeper's head, and goalkeeper can do absolutely nothing about that. Very, very stupid. From Mako, he's a player that fell apart mentally. I always say he's a new player. He's a different player when Connor Cody says sort of guide him through games. Cody went off and he completely went off the boil. To compound that, he then started making other mistakes, not playing the ball in the right place. A player that can't get over making an error, and I think that doesn't work at this level. At this level, you've got to be able to forget about it. You've also got to know where you are on the pitch, and in the middle of your own box, if the ball's coming right at you, make the assumption your goalkeeper's behind it. He didn't try to flick it, stick in the top of the net or top of his own net. And then we had a moment with the Chuckle brothers. As much as I respect Luke Berry for what he's done in football, it's pretty clear his legs have now gone. Cambridge getting promoted. That's a move for him that I think probably should take advantage of. Tries to win a tackle, gets nowhere near it. Macaulay Gillespie comes in, fouls the guy. And their sub, who I've never heard of before in his name, I can't remember off the top of my head, steps up and whips in one of the most ridiculous free kicks you're going to see at any point. Swansea gone to win the game 3-1. Did they deserve it? Yeah. Did they have 72% of the ball? Yeah. You can't sit there but it's a game that, as I say, it just doesn't really matter. And it's one of those where it was sort of nice but weird to watch. Obviously, Oxford lost anyway at Millwall. Expected that to happen. If they had something to fight for, would they maybe have gotten something? I don't think they're ever going to win at the Den, if I'm totally honest with everybody. And Ipswich went up. Millwall stayed down. Everyone was sort of taking the mick out of Millwall. That was all right. It was a game that I think we learnt nothing from, really. The same problems are there. We need 2 wing backs. We need 2 midfielders. One as a 6 to sit there and cover, who can play the ball through the lines, and a 10 that can, sort of open the game creatively. We need a left-sided centre-back when Amari Bell is injured, and let's be honest, that's going to happen once every couple of months. So getting a replacement for Amari when he's not fit, and then 2 wing backs to add width to the attacking play. And I think that's really what we're looking for here. Could we use a striker? Yeah, I imagine Lyndon Dykes now goes. He stepped up when he sort of needed to win the Scotland call up. I think he's probably got that Scotland call up, and at this point, he's probably said, right, I've done what I need to do. And yesterday, he clearly didn't want to be playing in that game. I can't knock him for that. I wouldn't have wanted to play in that, but I understand why Nathan did it. Personally, I would have played Kelman. I thought Kelman looked good when he came on. Thought Coventry was okay. Thought Cody was okay. Thought Fev was, as great as he was against Hull, he wasn't really involved in it. We missed Tyrese Campbell, I think, at times, just to have a bit of pace and a bit of ability to sort of get forward, drive that ball forward. You gained that a little bit when Sonny Carey came on, to be fair to him. He didn't have the greatest game either, but at least he sort of took the ball and moved it up. But look, it wasn't sort of vintage performance. Nathan Jones was clearly annoyed about it. Feeling quite frustrated. I think we all kind of are. I think that it's good to hear that they're changing tact on the transfer strategy, because you look at Harvey Nibbs yesterday and he looked gassed. And I get it, he's just been so in and out of the team. I think probably he's a player that needs a full pre-season. But there's so many players that you look at and you go, if I could upgrade you, I would. I think you're probably looking at it and going, by the sounds of things, you're probably looking at it not only because of the contract, not because of he's been great this season, but you're probably looking at Kaminsky, Jones, Bell, maybe Josh Edwards when he's back. That's probably the only sort of guaranteed starters next season. I think that's probably a pretty damning indictment of where we are. Only one of those is a new player, and two of those new players. One of them, I think a lot of people would like to upgrade, but the contract I think is going to keep him here. And another who is crocked quite often. So look, I don't mean to be down. It's job done. Look, we finished in 19th. If someone had told us we finished above West Brom and Blackburn, I think all of us have been delighted. What did we finish? 3 points, 2 points within Stoke, a point behind Portsmouth. You can't be too upset. Finished above Leicester. You finished above Oxford. I think we all would hope to have done. Sheffield Wednesday were obviously always going to be a bit of a basket case, but it wasn't a complete disaster of a season by any stretch. Obviously, the only team we did the double over was Sheffield United, and then teams did the double over as, just for people's knowledge, Preston, Norwich, Wrexham, unfortunately, and Portsmouth, which is a surprise. We're also the only team to win at Portman Road all season, just to make it a bit of a weird one. We won at the King Power, one at Bramwell Lane, one at Portman Road, one at the Riverside. And even I'm wondering now how on earth that was possible, considering how down we kind of have been all about the team for the last couple of months. For Nathan now, the job is to get these transfers right. He says he's ruthless. This is about being ruthless, but it's also about being smart. I'm sure Paul and I will discuss giving him the money, as we have done previously on other shows. But really, it comes down to now spend that money correctly. Buy players that you know will have an impact sort of straight away. Play it, and try and get some of these deals done earlier, so we don't end up with players without pre-seasons. They're free agent players. Obviously, I think Jordan Clark's a pretty obvious one. If they're free agent players that you want, go and get them signed early so that they can go with you to Slovenia or go to Dartford or whatever. But the World Cup's going to mess around probably with a couple of those, so there will be players that probably make some of those World Cup squads. Obviously not your England, Spain's, France's, but probably some of those smaller nations or less sort of less well-known sort of football squads, who may end up being sort of on the fringes of some of those teams, and at that point, they will come in a little bit later, and so you've got to sort of get that timing right. You've got to make sure that you're getting the work done early. It sounds like Nathan's basically said the job's already started. Well, that's great. But he's got to sell the next step, and the next step now is to become mid-table Championship football club year in, year out. And then from there, with the playoffs expanding obviously to 8 spots, all you need is one good, one decent season, and all of a sudden you're in the battle for that. I think the gap between 8th and 15th, isn't it, was about 5 points this season, so 5 or 6. So it's going to be a bit crazy when the 8th spot comes out. If you can get yourselves out of this little group of clubs, that means getting above Portsmouth, who have sort of bought okay with a lower budget, and Stoke have a lot of money to spend. Just re-signed Victor Johansson. So look, we've got to get it. We've got to get it right. Do I trust them to do it? Different question. But yeah, for me, I'd be interested to get what you guys think. For me, I think it's obviously going to be goalkeeper. So obviously, I would go backup goalkeeper, but everyone knows how I feel about that. But it's going to be less centre back, 2 full backs, maybe even 3, depending on having the backups, and 2 midfielders, 6 and a 10, and then probably a backup 10 or a backup 10/8, which I think is what the Clark signing will be, if that is indeed what is going to happen. With that, he's wearing the same shirt as me. We are matching twins. He's a twin about 50 years older than me. Let's welcome in my man, Paul Davenport. What are you doing on this fine, wonderful Sunday evening? On a bank holiday, I might add.
Yeah, I was going to say, is the season really over? I've bought a Peroni, but I'm not sure if I'm celebrating anything in particular. Celebrating 19th place, but no, good to be with you. Evening, everybody. We've got that season in the books, and let's just put it to bed and look forward, as you've been doing, Callum. But no, good to be here.
Did you pay $7.60 for your Peroni from the
from
the fans bar?
Absolutely. Good. Anyway, how are we all tonight? Are we all good?
Yeah, I'm good. The weather's been nice all day. That's been nice. Sort of recovering from my trip to Swansea. It wasn't anything crazy. I just felt very tired. It's a long way to go. Ends up being about 6 hours, there and back. I did it over 2 days, but I didn't sleep very well. And Swansea ended up being near the nightclubs, unfortunately. But you got to. I don't know. I mean, shall we start with Should we start with the reflections on yesterday? Maybe we'll start with the women just to kind of get this out of the way a little bit. Obviously, at the game yesterday, disappointing result, bit of a disappointing performance, really.
It was. I mean, it's just. I said to you, it's sort of a collapse of Devonlock proportions. For those that don't know, Devonlock, it was a horse that I think decided to fall on its belly within sight of the finish line at the Grand National. I forget which year it was, 58 or something, like 59. But yeah, no, it's just they had that long unbeaten run for a year, and then it's all sort of gone pear-shaped. I think partly they've run out of gas. I don't think they recruited anyone in January or the most recent window, and that's really showed because obviously Birmingham have got some real quality to call on. They obviously slipped up last game of the season last year against the Lionesses, so they were all set on revenge. But having lost 3-0 at home their last game, you would think that maybe there was some advantage we could press home, but of course we, having got ourselves back in the lead against Saints in stoppage time, we did almost like a Pompey.
Yeah.
Down the road, it was literally kicked off, and about a minute later, Southampton scored. And losing those 2 points proved to be vital. But yeah, there was only one team in it after the first 20 minutes, so it was really just disappointing. But they've got another chance now on the 23rd, 12:30 at the Valley. Try and get down as many as you can. I know we're both going to get down there to try and rule them on. But it's been so disappointing. It's just the sort of the cards, the whole deck of cards fell in really. So hopefully they've got time to regroup rather than stew on it, and they can come back stronger. Leicester, as you said to me yesterday, only won I think twice this season. So hopefully, they've got no form to speak of. But yeah, really, really disappointing. Obviously, the men at Swansea, as we know, it was a dead rubber. But still, that was quite disappointing. The way that we basically capitulated. Adam Eder, that well-known championship striker, scoring, I think, half of his goals this season against us. Yeah. I mean, it's ludicrous, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I put something in the chat while you were talking about, I totally agree on Harry Clark. I think the problem we've had is that we've had, 5 seasons of League One dross. And when you see a chink of light, it's almost like, you've been held hostage for 5 years and you run to the light and think, oh, yes, we've got these riches to feast our eyes on, and you actually realise that a lot of them aren't, they were maybe better than what we had, but when you realise the bar is so low that actually, they're not. If we want to evolve, as the manager talks about, his latest catchphrase or latest sort of nom de jour or whatever, then we're going to have to, really be as. And if he's going to be as ruthless as he says he is, then some of those players like Harry, much as I like him, we're going to have to say no, adios, because if we want to get better and we don't want to finish in the bottom 3 or 4, and let's face it, I don't think any of us want to go through a season like that again. The end justifies the means. If you'd have said to all of us before the season kicks off, you're going to retain your championship status. It might not be pretty. Occasionally there'll be sort of, some peaks, but mostly it's going to be, sort of nerve shredding stuff at times. Then you would have said, yeah, of course. But actually, I'm not sure that the means justify the end, really. And we certainly need to be a lot better. The manager acknowledges that, because it's just, we were lucky we did a Bolton and got a lot of points early on. And, by God, how lucky we were to have a Wednesday and Leicester, who through the, malfeasance, should I say, of Wednesday's previous owner and the incompetence of Leicester's current owner, who I'm afraid is not a patch on his late father. We got out of jail at Oxford, obviously were slightly worse than us. But that was it, really. And we survived by the skin of our teeth, and we just don't want to have that anymore. And I think it's good to hear the manager saying, yeah, we had a go at some of these League One prospects. Most of them haven't worked out. So we are going to have to go for proven quality. The problem is, of course, as we all know, to get that, you're going to have to shell out the muchachas, really, to a great degree. So it just depends. I'm not sure 10 or 15 million is going to cut it, to be honest with you. But, there we are. So, yeah, I think a season that I think that performance at Swansea kind of summed up the season, really. There were some good bits. It was good to see Miles on the score sheet. But there was some, sort of a Macca goal going in off Macca's chest, I think. Obviously not Macca's fault at all. But, there's another player that sadly I really like. He's a good, solid citizen. He's done a lot for us. But, again, you're going to have to say, if you want to move on, you're going to have to say goodbye, really. So, yeah, it's, as I say, I'm glad we've stayed up. I'll raise my Peroni to that. But, by God, we were lucky in the final analysis, really. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably parallels between the men and the women's in that way as well, in terms of we didn't quite have the quality. We got off to a really good start, using momentum, I think, from the season before. And then, obviously, we sort of ran out of that quality for the women. Obviously, they were playing Cam as their backup striker all season. At some point, that's going to catch you out. Not because of that player. Everyone knows I'm a big Julian Kenny fan, but she's a cam, not a striker, and that's the sort of thing I think they'll play. They've been rejected. I went back and checked the site when she signed, and it says she's a midfielder and she's played at striker all season because they just don't have anyone else they can play there. And the person they have starting at striker has been pretty poor all season, so they just don't score enough goals, and the men don't score enough goals either. Especially to make up for mistakes. I kind of want to do this. I think we'll start with a bit of a review of each position, and then kind of the room. But we try and keep these quite short. And we are both on the Chronicles doing a big sort of celebratory end of season show at 8 as well. So we'll watch the time a little bit. But let's start in goal. Obviously, it's not been a vintage season for anybody in terms of the goalkeeping position. I think for a lot of fans, I think we know we're not going to be getting a new number one in just in terms of contract. There's just I don't know how we get out of that contract. Whatever you think of the player, I've said the best thing to do is to upgrade the backup to a point where you've got a 1B and get a new goalkeeping coach and he can help you with the mental side. Actually, to be fair to Kaminski, I think he was okay on Saturday. It's not his fault for any of the 3 goals. And actually against Hull, I thought he was much improved as well. But I think Mannion's proven to be a very good League One goalkeeper. I think the step up is too much for him. Tiernan Brooks, God knows. But that's a longer term project to imagine we'll send him out on loan next season. I guess in really short, what do you think about the goalkeeping? Do you agree with my sort of assessment? As I say, I think Sam Tickle would be the answer. Do I think there's going to be interest higher up for the division? Probably. Does he want to come down south? I don't know. He's from up in Warrington, up that way. But that's kind of that's kind of what I would do in goal. Would be find a better 1B. Because I just don't think you can get off the Kaminski contract at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about writing off contracts. I think you'd be in danger of probably writing off 5 or 6, which financially wouldn't be viable, I think, throughout the squad. So, yeah, would Tickle, who's obviously played many games now, would he want to be second fiddle? He might want to do it for a year. Is Kaminski contracted for another year only? Is that
It's
right?
a year after that, but I don't know if it's a club option or not. At that point, with a year to go, he may accept going back to Europe and taking less money.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Tickle, you're right. I'm sure we'll have plenty of interest. I think particularly if they say you're going to be number one, which he clearly wouldn't be here, I guess. So it's a case of, would you give him a long contract, 3 or 4 years? Have him,
I would,
sit for, maybe come in occasionally. If
the cup games,
whatever. Or if Cam's injured, obviously in preference to Will if he's still here. And then say, obviously when TK goes, then it's yours basically. As I say, the only thing against that, if I was him, was, well, I'd like to play. Thank you very much. I'm used to being number one, and I'd like to carry on being number one. I appreciate maybe step up, and all the rest of it. But I guess that's the only thing really. If the money's good enough, then he may well say, yeah, fine, I'll do it, because I certainly like him for sure, and obviously let the memes begin once he signs. But yeah, so that would be
What's your fancy, right?
Yeah, we're starting low and going lower, I think, aren't we already? But no, I think because I mean, Tierna's long term, as you say. But I mean, he needs to go on loan. He needs practice. I mean, he had plenty of practice at Gateshead. He's been in sort of the under-21s or whatever, and that's just not the same, is it? As we know, so he needs to. If he's not going to, he needs to play. Basically, so yeah, I agree. Probably see him on loan. Yeah, Will's been a very able backup, but again, I mean, if he sees that someone else is going to come in, then I'm sure there'll be plenty of interest for Will. He's done enough to earn that. Absolutely. So I think my preference would probably be, if we can get, say, Sam Tickle in or another of equal quality, then let's go for it. Otherwise, I'd be more than happy to have Will as it is still in the 1, 2, 3 that we've got at the moment. But yeah, I think Tiernan Brooks certainly needs to get out there. He needs to get busy basically. And yeah, but it's intriguing because he did very well at Gateshead. He was peppered every single game, obviously. So it'd be good to see, and I'd really like to see him in a Charlton shirt. But yeah, not necessarily, right now really, because if he's starting to play regularly, we may find we've actually got a problem. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for those expecting large changes in the goalkeeping department, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think, as I say, it might be that they change back up to give themselves a bit more cover. As I say, there are other goalkeepers with the same sort of idea. Nathan Trott was on loan at Cardiff, had a very good season for them. He's at Copenhagen as a backup. Would he be interested in move back? Are Cardiff going to sign him? They might try to. But those I think are sort of the guys you're looking at. Those sort of really top level. I know Wigan are where they are in the league. That's not Sam Tickle's fault. You are looking at that sort of top end. I think League One for a backup. I think that's probably the only place we're going to go in League One. Minus, we'll get to the midfield later. I'm almost certain there will be a midfield signing from that division. Let's go to the defenders. Start with the centre backs, because actually I think this is the place you're going to see very little change.
Yes.
Obviously, I make the assumption they'll hold on to Lloyd Jones. We'll see if there's interest. Someone made a point. Maybe it was Charlton Life. Actually, someone made a point, which is that he doesn't actually have good stats on the ball, which would make sense because we're never on the darn ball. That would put off, I think, probably someone was saying Middlesbrough. And that would put off Middlesbrough under Kim Helberg. Someone who's not that great on the ball. He's never been the greatest player on the ball. That's not his fault. It's just not his game. So I would think they probably will try and hold on to Lloyd Jones. They'll probably have to give him a contract extension. He would deserve an increase in money. If he became the highest paid player at the club, I don't think that would upset many of us. So I think they will try and get Ramsey to sign a contract extension. He sounded like he wanted to, but Ramsey is notoriously difficult to read. I actually think he's had a bit of an up and down season rather than have been great all the way through. But that's, some people think he's been fantastic all season. I think he went off the boil a bit after the Millwall red cards. Come back a little bit, I think, lately. Maybe the last couple of months, but I think he did struggle in the intervening bit and had a few injuries as well, which probably doesn't help. And the left side will be a Murray Bell, I'd imagine, starting, and then you're going to need a backup left back. Colin Sechenje, I think, has proven that he's going to be an adequate backup. He will start games next year as well, because obviously Ramsey has had his injury history. You hope that they'll trust him enough to make Lloyd not have to play on one leg for the whole season. I think we've seen enough from him to say there might be a really good signing in there. And then, Reece Burke will be when Reece Burke is fit, and God knows when that's going to be. I would hold on to Keenan Goff. I think he's proven enough as a backup.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I know people want to see him play. I want to see him play, but actually I think that if you're trying to spend money, and we'll talk about, the next two positions we talk about where the money's going to be spent, I think that's probably adequate. I would like one left-sided centre-back, allowing Macaulay Gillespie to go. I think both Mitchells probably head off. Alex probably signs for Plymouth. I would have thought he won their player of the season, didn't he?
He did. They want him. Yeah, I mean, all the socials are saying they want to sign him.
And we've indicated we're quite happy to let him go. Basically, Mill will have a 25% sell-on fee, so we want to get our money back, basically. Which would help because £500,000 in revenue. Sam asked about Kaminsky. Text me later, mate. I can tell you, but it has all been smoothed out. It was smoothed out a couple of weeks ago.
I mean, Zach Mitchell's been unlucky, but I think it's one of those things, where does sort of teenage prospect transition into sort of, actual, and I think he's had his time. It's been unlucky, but I think probably Zach is. With Collins, I mean, he's come from a league where it wasn't quite as onerous for him, and he's obviously had some little tweaks here and there. And I guess my jury would be out in terms of just watching that, actually, because I'd want to make sure that he has obviously a full pre-season, and then make sure that, because if he starts pulling up in sort of game 5 or something, you're thinking, not another Amari or Reece. He's clearly a player. He's a really good ball player, very comfortable with the ball. He can pick a pass. He's got good balance, all the things you want in a really good defender. But he's very progressive. But again, it's just little niggle with me. Hope it's completely steaming lukewarm take on one of my usual ones, and it's absolutely something and nothing. But I just I'm he's had a few little tweaks now, hasn't he? 2 or 3, and it's like okay, let's see how he goes. But it's a good
point. This replace Deji, who's obviously now at Lincoln. I think this would actually.
Well, that's a really good segue actually, Callum, because obviously Deji, he was sort of the coming man, wasn't he, from the academy? And they sent him out, and now here he is. We're going to be playing him next season. So it's 2 steps down and 3 steps up or whatever. So maybe the same will happen for Zach. or he may be another sort of Lucas Ness. I don't want to say too much because obviously I'm a big fan of Lucas, but obviously Lucas has kind of found his level, whereas Deji's really come on. So it's a bit like a different position. Obviously, Brendan Wiredu. I mean, we let him go.
Yeah.
Up, hasn't he? I think is he with Plymouth again as well?
He is. Yeah.
So again, it's worthwhile for Zach's career. He has been really unlucky with sort of injuries, but I think it would be sad. It's always sad to see your home products go, but sometimes it's best for their career, I think. And we'll come to obviously to one or two other academy players later on. We'll have the same discussion, but it kind of gets to a point where you think actually we've done. He's been here now. He's not kind of made the breakthrough, not entirely of his own making, but maybe it's time for the best for both parties to move on. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't know. I guess the only point to make, is left-sided centre back. I think is obviously the place where. And you hope, and we can use it as a segue actually, because I think that the place you are going to see massive changes wing back. This is the place, and we will talk about midfield because that's the other place. This is where Nathan Jones is. If you're going to play the 5-back system, this is where your attacking width comes from. I've banged on about this for months. Yeah. I don't want to bang on about it ever again because I want two wing backs.
Have you?
They're really hard to find. Because if you're going to be a winger, you do not want to be a wing back. It's not a sexy footballing position, right? You're a winger, right? Yeah. To be fair, I always say this about Tyrese Campbell. To be fair to him, he's humble enough to go and play it, but it's a really difficult spot. I mean, Rob Apter, right? And we'll keep Raptor as part of this, as part of this group, because this is where I think Nathan saw him play. I think was it Millwall that game where he really struggled and he just defensively didn't put much of a shift in. I think that was the game, and then the Southampton one where he took him off after 25 minutes. That was when Nathan Jones said, "I can't risk doing this anymore." But for me, I look at wing back and I go, "Yeah, Josh Edwards is back." I was chatting to someone who was taking the mick out of me and calling Substack. Basically, he was saying, "Well, there's only 4 players you can build around," and it was Lloyd Jones, Matty Godden, Amari Bell, Josh Edwards. And I went, "Well, Josh Edwards has been at this club and you're a big Josh Edwards fan, so someone's talked to about." I like Josh Edwards, the footballer, a lot. I actually think that's a player that will transition to the Championship pretty easy. But he's been here for 2 years and he's only really played, 6 months? 8 months for football because of injury concerns. He's someone that throws himself at everything and everyone.
He does.
And the thing with players like that is, as fantastic as they are, they're like to pick up knocks.
You need
that was sort of, that's my concern, is I go, can you build around, if you look at those 4, you go 3 of them are over 30 and one of them has played 6 months and 8 months or whatever in 2 years. So for me, I look at it and I go, what you need is that he's right to say you should build around your wing backs, because in a 5-back you should. But you need to get to yourself 2 quality wing backs. And, we'll talk about midfielders and the cost of bringing us. I actually think the wing backs are going to be where it's going to be very, very expensive, right? Because you're going to have to go and spend Apter-style money. You're going to spend more than the Apter-style money to get players that fit their specialist positions. They're extremely expensive. The guy, I'd forgotten his name at Bristol City, and someone reminded me in the comments a few episodes ago, and I shouldn't forget it. That's why that would sort of make sense to me, is that's a way cost effectively to get yourself someone who's going to be very, very expensive. Even a wing back that's a 6.5 out of 10 every week is going to be 5 million quid. They're really, really expensive. They're really hard to find. And when you find a good one, teams don't get rid of them because lots of teams now want to play the wing back system. So I think you do hope Josh Edwards comes back fine. You hold on to him. That's not my point at all. I think if he's fit, he probably starts most weeks. He's not the greatest player going forward, but that's not a problem necessarily. I think Apter you have to send out on loan again. The reports back from Bolton have been pretty terrible. He needs to go somewhere and rediscover his joy a little bit.
He's a confidence player, isn't he? And he's been shot of confidence.
He's shot out of him. Schumacher. Schumacher looks completely doesn't know what to do with him. I don't even think he came on against Luton. And that's one of the better managers at that level. So I think you do. I mean, I think when we looked at left wing back, they were looking at the lad at Dundee. United, isn't it? They were looking at the left centre back from Dundee. But we're trying to basically buy half of Dundee United's back line by the sounds of. We're looking at both of them. So I think
they ferry the striker as well, weren't they? Dundee United, I think, as well.
They're looking at it for a couple of players. Yeah, so I think they're definitely having a look. There probably are deals to be done in Scotland. When people say abroad, actually, it is technically a foreign league, which is kind of funky. But it's one of the. It is according to the rules when it comes to registering players. It is a foreign league. Mark Sykes, that's the player I was looking for.
That's That's
Thank you, Sam. Yeah. Thanks, Sam. But that's the sort of player. Again, Rich was saying I haven't heard anything. I don't know. But there was, you were saying maybe it's one for later when the position is shared. But I think wing back is really, really important. They get it right. I don't have a list of wing backs to tell people it could or could not be. But I think this is where you get to a player like a Sinmo, we talk about those academy kids. I think probably that's it for him now.
I think so. He's struggled in League One, hasn't he? Let's be honest. He struggled. He started off like a train for Wimbledon, and then it sort of tailed off a bit. But I mean, we'll obviously get on to budgets and all the rest of it, and do we trust the manager? But that's the frustrating thing about the Raptor. I mean, I don't know what they thought they were getting, but clearly it wasn't who they thought they were. But I mean, Rob's an out-and-out winger, and as we've seen those first few games, when you play him as an out-and-out winger, get him to the byline, get if he crosses in, he's more than useful to the side. But he's not a wing back. There's no point trying to convert him to a wing back. So you try and fit him in. You spend a lot of money on him. So I just say to Nathan, play him. If you're not going to play a formation that suits the guy, then that is probably one you're going to have to write off. But I'd agree with you. He needs to play. He needs to be. I think I said in my response to one of the sort of Rich's Substack articles, he needs Curtis and the manager to put their arm around his shoulder in the summer and say, look, try and get him back on track, because he is I think I described him as a scouser that needs his chirp back. He was really chirpy when he came in pre-season, obviously in Slovenia with Sonny, all their big mates from Blackpool. They did a little Q&A together, I think, and it was all great. And he was really, those first couple of months, he was really happy, and he was sort of, he had his own song, and he was, running down the wing and all the rest of it. And it was great to see. He was even doing, I remember at QPR, he was even doing a bit of defensive sweeping up as well. So he's not totally averse to defending. But no, I mean, his impact is as an offensive player, and he's one of those, you can call him a luxury player if you want. But I mean, he is a wing back. He's an offensive player, and I think I wouldn't expect him to come, into his own half. Basically, he's there to attack. He's there to occupy the a bit like we talk about TC occupying defenders. That's the sort of role you want for Rob. More generally, is to actually make defenders think. He's tricky. He can get. Yeah, absolutely, Robert. I mean, he did. I mean, and that was their sort of telepathy from Blackpool days. They know each other. They're very friendly on and off the pitch, and it showed. And I think you're right. There is a player in there, Charlie. There really is, and I think it would be sad. Not just from a financial point of view to write it off, but we've given him I think a 4-year contract. I think I'd be right in saying so. Let's make use of it. Okay, let's write this year off and say, well, it's, put it down to experience. But I think hopefully Nathan realises that. I mean, he said apparently that Rob going on loan wasn't his doing. Maybe it was the fact that Rob and perhaps his mum wanted him to just get away, go up north again, up to the northwest. Back almost home, and hopefully he'd settled down. But clearly it's not worked out that way, and I'm sure he probably feels pretty bitter about the way he's treated at Charlton. There's pros and cons. Perhaps he should have acted in a slightly different way. His petulance isn't always, welcome. We saw him at Hull storm off and all the rest of it. So when he was subbed, but I just really like Rob. I remember going to Wealdstone and sort of being on his side of the pitch when he came on the second half, and he was really up for it. And, he was, I mean, I know Amari was shouting at him to defend, which is quite ironic, really. That was the first game he played. Already someone was getting in his ear about his lack of defending, but that's not him. So, as I say, if you're going to play him in a way you're going to get the best out of him, best formation. Not saying you should sacrifice the team for him, obviously. But if you can try and fit him in rather than sort of shoehorning him in, then I think that would really help, and I think we will see the best of him. So, it's sad to hear him that he's really down, and hopefully he can come up, because also there's a lot of Charlton fans that were sad when he was taken out the team. So they'll be happy to see him back, and hopefully he can come back fit and firing at Dartford or wherever we go, and clean slate, and hopefully he can just be back to what we saw in sort of September, October time.
I guess at wing back, and this is a question I'd ask you: if Southampton get promoted, I don't think there's any way they sign James Bree. I think if they don't sign James Bree, not if they get promoted. He's not. He was never good enough in the Premier League for him. It's not going to magically change. And they'll have a lot of money to spend if they get promoted. No, I would argue that I think that they're probably. I would argue that they're probably the favourites to go up in my head. Yes. Southampton.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On the run that they're on. So for me, I would say that, and I would go, look, people might not like this. I think if Southampton go up, I think probably James Bree will become a Charlton player again.
Yeah.
I know Emma will lose her mind, but actually, in terms of a functional right wing back, that you again, I said it before about Sykes, right? If that ends up being your wing back rotation on 2 threes, you're pretty darn happy with that, right? That's 2 proven championship players at
absolutely.
At basically reasonable wages, who basically can split games between them. Wing backs a very tiring position. They're both in their late 20s. They're not in their 30s. It would make sense. Left wing back, you've got Josh Edwards, and then you go find somebody else. And then Matt's brought up, if we can squeeze Fevre into the role we played against Hull, then Apsa can do it too. Well, my point would be, at that point, you would be able to look at a Fevre 2-footed type to sort of make that sort of a functional wing back rotation. But I think it's very, very important that they get it right, and you give Nathan players in that position that he trusts, because it's so incredibly important to any sort of 5-3-2 or 3-5-2. And if they're fully fit, Bree would definitely sign him. I would sign him. I know people would whatever. I would do it any day of the week. So the goal for Fevre scored with the type of goal Apter can score an attacking run, a 3-4-3 role with wing backs. Yeah, so the point I've always made about Apter is the player that got the most hurt by Josh Edwards getting injured was actually Rob Apter, right? Other than Josh himself, because Josh was able to sort of cover that side. He didn't have to go forward; it allowed Apter to go forward. The moment that Josh got injured, Apter's game time basically dropped. And that was, other than QPR, and that was a huge part of it, because you just need someone to cover it. Actually, when Bell was covering it, Apter didn't look so bad. But the reason why Bree came in was because he had to start playing TC at left wing back, and he had no defensive cover, so he sort of shifted the team to be more defensive on the right-hand side. That affected Ramsey, because Ramsey's used to going forward, whereas Bell is not a forward-going player. So it ended up just being a bit of and Gillespie's not either, so it ended up just being a bit of a messy situation. So that's why wing back is so important to sort out. Exactly. In the midfield, this is going to be fun, because this is the other bit where the money's being spent. And I think for me, there are 2 painfully obvious places. The first, a creative 10. Dear to God, a creative 10 who can play balls between the lines. 2 of them. Please, dear to God, 2 of them. And I can tell everyone for free, one of those, almost certainly, thanks to Luton's result last night, yesterday afternoon, will be Jordan Clark joining from Luton Town. People can get whatever. He's 32 years old. He'll be 33 when the season starts, whatever. Got 14 goal involvements this season. And we had the best season of his career in terms of involvements. He's absolutely fine. He can still run. Luton fans you talk to say it sounds like that's going to happen. From our end, it sounds like, you start to see more and more people saying it. He is the sort of player that makes sense, because he doesn't need to play every week, right? He's also Nathan Jones' buddy, and it's a whole different conversation we can have. But if he does come in,
Callum, sorry to interrupt. If we get Bree in, it will reunite the quartet. That actually got to this playoff final, I think, in 2022 playoff semis with Luton.
It would.
So again, pretty much old boys. But sorry, carry on. No, Jordan Clark would be a great addition. I mean, as I say, the more creative players we can get, the better, really. Because as I say, we're so pedestrian. It is sort of sideways and backwards, not quite sideways and backwards everywhere we go, but it's certainly the Kish Mac. I mean, that'd be nice. But it's just the fact. I mean, looking at, I only saw the highlights of the Swansea game. But I mean, they were just moving the ball so nicely. Just little clip passes, nothing, expansive.
Galbraith wasn't even in the team either.
Exactly, and that that just shows that sort of the dearth of talent we've got. We've said before, we've got energy, we've got industry, we've got guys that will run all day for the shirt, and that's great to a certain extent. But then you realise that actually you're up against, many other teams that are, 23 other teams who are basically, who have got that energy, but then also have got quality. So that's where that's the difference, and that's kind of where we kind of ran into the sand a bit this season. Really, we could still match certain teams who maybe were lacking on that particular day in personnel through injury or what have you, but actually then you come up against the Swansea, who are kind of middle of the road, literally middle of the pack team, and they were just playing it around. We're sort of so pedestrian. We go down the flanks. If we get it, we get it to Charlie down the channels, then he's going to feast basically, and that's what happened with him. And it's no coincidence that, of course, the aforementioned Ethan Galbraith was one of his key teammates at Orient, in 24-25, and it's that sort of thing. You need to, again, get players to be the best version of themselves, as the manager says. Well, if you've not got your creative midfielders, then the likes of Charlie Kelman absolutely can't be. They're gonna feed on scraps. They'll get you 1 or 2 goals through their own brilliance. I mean, obviously the goal against Hull was an example of that. It was all Charlie basically. It was all him. And they need help. We played Bristol City, a team without supposedly one fit central defender or any fit central. But what did they do? They just gave it to the likes of Scott Twine to do their thing basically. And
Randall Knight-Bird, right? The medieval
exactly.
trio.
So the ex-Derby players, they were great. But again, they're kind of a middle of the road team.
Yeah.
They had their good run to the playoffs. The season before last, as it is now, and or we still in this season, I guess, because we've still got the playoffs. But it is. We just need that creativity. We still need the steel. We still need the Docks of the world, but they need to provide the platform for those creative players to play. And I said before, I said on the Chronicles, ad infinitum, that if you get creative players that feed TC the ball, you just say to TC, right, TC, you need to be in this particular, get to this spot, we'll get you the ball, diagonal, whatever, crossfield passing, cutting through the defence, whatever it is. You just do your thing. We'll get you the ball. Well, we haven't got that at the moment. We're relying on Sonny's athleticism, and he's obviously gone off the ball because basically, far too much has been loaded onto Sonny. He's our top goal scorer. I mean, that's an indictment, isn't it, of the team, basically.
And it's because he can shoot from range. It's because he can shoot from range. So he doesn't need to create loads and loads of inside the box. Let me just do a really, really quick thought experiment, Paul. If you look at the players in midfield that we've been linked to, and I don't think that this is actually going to be the midfield. I think it's probably going to be more expensive than this ends up being. If you compare Carey with Docking behind it, Coventry at the 6, which we played this season, you can even put Cody in the 6 if you want. Our best technical player is a former centre back to make the point about how little technical skill we have in midfield.
Yes.
If you change that to, and I don't think will happen now, Rex Mount in the playoffs, but I'm just going to use it as the type of player they're looking at. I don't know if I'd necessarily be for this move anyway, but if you look at it, they're looking at Dobson, JRC, Clark. I can tell everybody the step up that you would get from that second one at this level would make you more competitive in more games, right? Yeah. They're not all perfect midfielders, and I think Clark will ultimately be a squad player. I don't think Dobson will happen. I think it will be somebody else. But what you're kind of looking at, I think, is you're trying to make everything sort of take a step up. People talk about Jesse, he's not a Nathan Jones player. I don't think that is true. I don't think Nathan's lying. I think they made an opportunity signing when they saw JRC was available for the number he was available for.
Yeah.
And I don't think JRC's been terrible in most of the games he's played. I think you can see what he brings. But you need a 10 that's creative. And for anyone that doesn't like the Clark signing, if it happens, just go watch the Virtue Trophy final and look at the first 2 Luton goals. Tell me which player Charlton have that can make you those 2 passes, and I'll tell you which one it is. It's none of them. But that was the difference in the game. It's a 3-1 game. He created the 2 goals that won them the game. Right, that's what he does. He's also an excellent penalty taker, which massively helps you. But he scored against Bolton on the weekend. Then at the end looked as if he was waving goodbye. It very much looked as if this is going to happen now. But there's a difference in that. I think there's a steeliness you get from a 6, but you need a 6 that can sit and play through the lines, and that's, I think, the change that we need. And someone that can cover a little bit more space, allowing your Rams of the world to step up. I think moving the conversation to the strikers, and this is where things get really, really funky because we have a lot of them. Firstly, in short, what did you give Matty the 1-year extension? I would too. I'd just about over the Rubicon if I want the experience in there, and it might be because I like Matty Godden a lot, but I think that he was effective enough when he played, to prove that there's a player that if you can make sure that he's fit going into the season, at the very least he can get you 4 or 5 goals, and hopefully that can help do what we've done this year and get those points early.
Well, look at the goals he's scored since the couple of goals he's scored. I mean, we haven't got anyone that can do that off the cuff. I mean, particularly the Watford goal was excellent. It was brilliant. It was a blink of an eye stuff. Long throw, locked on his chest, bang. And it was just wonderful. We just don't have anyone. I think he's been robbed of this season basically through no fault of his own. So I think if we don't want him suing us, I think we probably need to give him a year. I think he, at the very least, he deserves that. It's unfortunate, obviously, he got the little tweak couple of games ago, and that's that was his season done.
Well,
but
kicked him in the calf.
Yeah, there was that. Yeah, sorry, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
A little
so
tweak,
again,
he just literally kicked and gave him a dead leg.
He did, didn't he? Sorry, you remind me. Absolutely. So that's fine. So as I say, nothing long term. Again, neat had no pre-season. Just thought he was going to have his knee cleared out, and lo and behold, it was far worse than that. Again, as I say, through no fault of his own, he's been denied pretty much the whole season. So from just that sort of, if you like, moral point of view, he deserves it. But it's not just that. He's obviously a proper sort of, what they call him, the sniffer dog, fox in the box, whatever you want to call him. He's excellent, and we haven't got that. So I'd agree. Give him a year, and I think he'll be wanting to sort of come back and show what he's about, which he did in those brief spates towards the end of the season. Let
me lay out what I would do with some of the strikers we have, because there's so many. Whatever it takes to get rid of Gassan, just to get him off the books, I do. Right, whether someone's willing to do a loan where they pay 60% away, or whether I have to pay him off, whatever I have to do, that's fine.
Yes,
I think it's pretty obvious. Sam's disagreeing with this. Sell Miles Gasman TC. That's not going to happen. Keep Gordon, Callum, sign Dykes. I wouldn't sign Dykes. I thought on Saturday was pretty dreadful. I think it's been pretty poor for a couple of weeks now. I think since the Scotland call up, he's gone off the boil a bit. Then find experienced Championship forward too. This is what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to give TC an extension. People might not like it.
Yeah,
say Levy.
I do.
That's going to happen. If he signs it, they'll do it. There's potentially there's too much money to not. You're not going to let him go for free. What will really annoy people is if they let him go, like people are saying to, and then he goes to another club and rips it up, and we look like absolute mugs.
And he will.
And I think he would. I think he would as well. I think in a better team, I think he would. And I think that's what I say to people all the time when people go to a lot of these players and they go, they're just not good enough. I think the ones in key positions, you can say they are. But, when we look at the goalkeepers and we go, yeah, they've let in technically more. I hate that XG, whatever, should be saved stat, where it's a stupid stat, right? Yeah, and I understand why people use it. It's a stupid stat, but we face the 7th most shots in the division. Of course, we're going to concede lots of goals. We waste too many shots. Further than that, I think that players will improve with better players around them. Strikers with no service don't score goals. How many shots has Marylebone taken that you think, we should have done better with? The Coventry one-on-one's one that comes to mind, and I think there was one earlier in the season that, off the top of my head, maybe it's Derby away. I can't remember. Other than that, it's not like he's missed loads of chances. So I think that you need better players to make players better, especially the younger ones. And I think that's kind of what they're saying. I think that, Nathan's frustrated with certain elements, but I think he's been pretty clear that he intends to keep the kids here. Absolutely. I think Carnu, the obvious one is he goes out on loan. Yes. I think you bring him back, you give him an extra year. I think he's still 29 at the moment. You give him till 30. You ship. No, he's still 28. Give him till 29. You ship him out on loan to League One. Hello, Luton Town. Would you like this? I think they might. And then you've got. I think that Dykes goes.
Yeah.
I think Tanto's tricky, but I think Tanto goes. I think if you can do some sort of Fev swap deal, I think you probably do it. Will they do it? I don't know. Probably that's a trickier one. I don't know if Stockport would do it by the sounds of things, let alone.
Well, Tanto. There's obviously a lot of love for Tanto from my perspective, but
yeah, of course,
he's not been doing it for Stockport. There was a lot of fanfare when he got there. The fire extinguisher and all that stuff, but he's just not done it really. So why would they? Risk bringing him back because he's not justified it. Basically, it would be a sentimental signing, and you can't do that. No sentiment in business and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So no, but I think going back. Sorry, very briefly. We're talking about strikers, but sorting out that midfield is going to unlock a whole load of stuff because it's going to unlock the likes of TC. It's going to unlock Miles, Charlie, etc., etc. So it's difficult. I was a bit concerned about Nathan's comments about Miles needs to trust his body. He made that he likes a coded message, doesn't he? In public, Nathan. And I think he said it twice. I think certainly he reported in the Substack, in Corley's Substack. He said that, used that precise phrase at least twice. Yeah. So I think he's on notice basically. I think this season, Miles really needs to. We know Miles has got the talent. That's undeniable. But it's just about he has been unlucky with his hamstring. That was a really serious injury. I don't bang on about it, but it was.
Yeah, of course it was. He ripped it off the bone.
And so it's understandable that in the back of his mind, it's understandable he doesn't want to sort of maybe push himself. But obviously, Nathan thinks that he can and he should, until he hasn't been. But again, he's sharply taking goal yesterday was, again, that's what Miles was all about. He got his head in the place where he goes in, where people fear to tread, as it were. Gets his head in there. A lot of players don't like doing that. So from that point of view, he's fearless. But it's just if we sort of sort out that midfield and create chances and give him stuff to feed off, because a lot of the stuff he's able, some of the goals he's scored have been all his own work, basically, haven't they? Certainly around the penalty area. So if you can actually get him the service, then they'll probably see sort of the real Miles, and we'll see the real TC, and we'll see the real Charlie. Basically.
The goal comes show in a second. The goal on Saturday from the corner, to me, is what we don't do enough of. I think it's Chambers that puts it in again, a player with a Premier League style ball. We need to get more players that can do that.
Yes.
But if you can do that from corners, we do have enough height to win a lot of these sorts of things. But you've got to get Miles the service properly, and I don't think we've done that this season. I think there's two players. I think Charlie, again, I thought when he came on, he was very good against Swansea again. I think that playing it through the channels, I think we're starting to see this is how you actually play with this player.
Exactly.
I think that he was very, very good against Hull. I think he was very good when he came on yesterday. I think that if we can start to see this, I probably just need a bit of time to adjust. And I say this all the time. The difference with the Charlie and Tanto was getting himself in the position but couldn't finish. That's sort of that's instinctive. Charlie could finish it, but he wasn't getting the thing right, and that was position right. And that to me was the runs were never the right way. He was running as if he was still playing with Donnelly and Galbraith, and he wasn't. So I think if you get him a good midfield, he's a good enough finisher at this level to be able to do that. Carey took the corner. Sorry, goodness gracious me, Carey can't take a corner, so that's a step. That's a step up. Fair play to him. But I do think that. But I think Charlie's probably earned. I think they're always going to stick with him. Nibs might be better with a full pre-season. That's a good point. He wasn't very good yesterday. But I think the obvious, and I say this on this podcast all the time. I talk about him all the time. But the one thing that we do have returning this summer is the Star Boy, and 5 million, probably more than that now. 5 million quid's worth of football is back. How the heck he's going to be playing in August, God knows. But hey, being built like a brick house turns out to be a skill. Which is what on earth do we do with? And this is the asset that you have to manage, because you sell them for enough money, and you can go off and spend a lot of money using that. Basically, if you bank that money from your own academy kid, this is where it's going to get really, really, really tricky. Because I'm like many people, I'm sort of like, well, if he's worth that much in the preseason, and especially that first Carabao Cup game, please, can I, Nathan? I just need to have a look at. I'm almost annoyed that the first game's the Carabao Cup, because I don't think you're going to see as much rotation as you normally would. Teams will use it as a final sort of preseason dress rehearsal. But they'll get bigger crowds, but they'll use it as a dress rehearsal basically. So teams won't use the backups as much. It wouldn't surprise me if Kaminsky starts that first game, for example, because I think that most teams will do that. But goodness gracious me, this is the question, isn't it? This is tantalising. It is.
That was the word I was about.
We don't have a striker. Oh boy, do we maybe have a striker?
You took the word right out of my mouth. Tantalising, exactly the word.
Is he ready? Is he not ready? Nathan seems to think that he would have been ready. I don't know if he's ready or not. I couldn't tell you. All I can tell you is if I don't get to see him in a red shirt, I'm going to be very, very. I know I've saw him for a couple of minutes here and there, but I'll be very, very upset. I just want to see what on earth it is that we've produced. That's got clubs going notifying us that they want to know what's going on here.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating that he obviously got nobbled. So I think he's going to get away without having an op, which is something I think. But he's still going to be on sort of long-term rest till July, August, or whatever, isn't he? So hopefully he'll get
pre-season. They're saying.
Yeah, well, that'll be good then if we can see him, because I'd love to see him in pre-season.
Slovenia
at full speed, because he's obviously some prospect. But with him, it's the move from prospect to red hot player is pretty short, I'd say, to be honest with you. So as you say, Sam, it would be good to be able to use him. But it is, again, when you think about if people are going to come up with ludicrous offers, 10 million or something like that, then are you really going to turn that down? I don't think so. But
No,
yeah,
nor
I'd
do
love
I.
to see him. I'd love to see him have a few run of games at least before January, and then if he goes in January, at least he's shown that he can actually do it at a higher level. But yeah, I'd agree. It would be a real shame if we never got to see him. Yeah, great to have big money, but to not be able to see him, ply his trade in the Championship in a Charlton shirt would be one of those great sort of might have beens. But hopefully it will be a case of it will be, and we will see him, as early as possible, really. Because from what the little we have seen of him and the clips I've seen at Colchester, I know it's obviously League Two, but he was just so good.
They couldn't believe we didn't recall him. Honestly, I mean, their fans will tell you the lad was 3 steps above the level, and whenever fans are telling you that much, I just remember the goal where he chipped the keeper from the halfway line, and you just looked at that and you just went, yeah, okay, no, this kid. To even attempt that at League Two, when the Cowley brothers, who have poached a lot of very good strikers, go look them up in terms of who they've coached. When they said that's the best striker I've ever coached, for a 19-year-old kid. I would not do this because it didn't work with Burstow. It was an absolute mess. People get really, really upset when teams do this. I think you normally have to give it a season or two away, Matt. I never think that selling and then loaning back is ever a great idea unless you're mid-season. But the real thing here is that if you get it right, we talk because this is the budget bit, right? To move on from the playing squad.
Yeah.
If you sell him for 13 million and we lose 13 million next season, all of a sudden you basically can spend whatever the heck you want for that one season because you've got 13 extra million to spend because basically it opens that up completely.
Yeah,
it's going to be really, really, really important that we get this right, and that's the question. I think everybody at the club kind of knows it's important we get this right. I think Micah knows it's important we all get this right.
Yeah.
I think the way that he's reacted to not being sold to Brighton, I think, is a credit to him. I know it sounds like he was annoyed, but then sort of basically, I think it's pretty obvious what they've told him is we're going to give you more money. Don't worry about it. We are going to make this right for you. But his dad is very much part of his entourage. They're very, very, very sort of they're very calm by all accounts. Everybody knows the talent is undeniable.
Yeah.
It's just a question of do you get this right? And if I'm Micah, I think Brighton probably was very interesting because of their ability to develop players.
Yeah.
But you look at it and you go, look, if Newcastle, Tottenham, I always think West Ham's not a terrible shout for a player like that either in terms of being, if they stay up, in terms of being not very far from home as well. But you look at some of these sides and you go, like, if he can hold on for 12 more months, right, and not take that move. I know it's life-changing money. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
But if he can hold on for 12 months, he really could have his pick of pretty much anywhere. And we could get a Lookman-style fee for him. And that's what we're saying. 16.5 million is not out of the equation.
No.
It's not out of the equation. Roman Esse went for 18.5, right, wasn't it? And that helped Millwall go and buy Aziz and Kramer and all the rest of it to build. So, it's really, really important when you have one of these kids that, and this is why I asked you on the Chronicles about a month and a half ago when I went to you guys, would you sell him for 7 million? And all you guys went, yes. I was the only person that said no. And that's why, because I don't think you produce many of these kids. I think you produce probably quite a few Mwambas and TCs and Lee Burns who are very, very exciting youngsters, Fullers. You don't produce kids like this. You don't produce England strikers like this. And a player that's been able to turn down Garner's youth levels because England have said, you're probably going to be one of us. I mean, when you read Ornstein's piece and basically we've briefed out, we fully intend for him to lead our striking line for years to come, right? He's 18 years old. I should tell you everything that you need to know is that when Stephen Avery's out there going, yes, this is one of the best prospects I've ever produced. Just Gomez, Conser, and Lookman. I always say, we've been spoiled because those are all sort of once in a generation talents for a club like ours, and we've got them all kind of back to back, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got another one of them, right? We've got another one of them, and that's the exciting, I think, piece. And you've just got to get that right because it matters for the budget. We've got a couple of comments in here I think have been really interesting about the loans. Sam first saying the under 18 lads are at the Valley this coming weekend. Definitely good to see season ticket holders go for free now in their football fix. I will be going to RCD Mallorca against Villarreal personally. But please do go if you're around the under 18. It's always good to go see him. Charlie, would you have Chambers back? I rate him highly. I think I like Chambers a lot more than most people. My worry is his minutes restriction. I think because he can only play an hour. I think he actually played most of the game against Swansea. To be fair, he played all of it actually. But I just think with the minutes restriction, it's difficult, especially if we're going to have a player that, like Josh Edwards, as I say, who's been proven to be pretty injury prone himself, having two fullbacks either on minutes restrictions or whom you can't trust to get all the way through a game or all the way through a couple of months. I think it's a bit worrying for me. I don't know how you feel, Paul, but before you answer that, do we sign any of the loan players or move on guys? Thoughts? For me, the only ones that I'm looking at would be February if I can get a cheap deal done in his last 12 months. I don't know if I can, but if I could and he doesn't want to leave London, I can't imagine as a London kid he wants to go back to Stockport like that. I just can't see him wanting to, but maybe it works out that way for him. And then Cody, depending on if he takes a lot less money, maybe.
He wants to stay. It's obvious he wants to stay. It was a come and get me interview, I think, yesterday, pretty much.
He doesn't want to go back to Wrexham to not play.
Yeah.
And that's pretty obvious. I think you're going to have that conversation with him. I would take Cody back on 15 grand a week. He can't play twice in a week. He's got his limitations, and I think that needs to be. I think he did play the full game. I thought he did.
So his eldest son is with Preston's academy. He signed up last year, so clearly, coming back down south for that lad would not be a thing. So, I mean, I think I've obviously been all over him and his wife's Insta. Sorry, I'm like that. But I think that I don't think that it would be an issue because exactly. No, I think because we're talking about a year, wouldn't we? Two absolute tops.
Yeah.
So I think these other kids are young enough that you're not going to disrupt things schooling wise if he came down. Although, as I said, with his son in the academy at Preston, he'd want to make sure he stayed up in the northwest, really, wouldn't he? So I couldn't see them moving down lock, stock, and barrel. But I mean, if Nathan says, look, I'll let you go back home for a couple of days a week or something like that, I'm sure they could do something like that, probably get a private jet to fly him back and forth, not beyond the bounds of possibility. But, it's that sort of thing because he clearly, if he didn't want to stay, he would have said, yeah, thanks, guys, no thanks, really liked the time here. The lads were great, the fans were great. But he quite clearly wanted to I think the vibes are really positive. I think he wants to stay. So maybe Wrexham do a deal, maybe Wrexham just, write it off, or whatever, and they pay part of the wages, as I'm sure they already are as part of the loan deal. So I don't think that would not surprise me. I mean, I think Nathan again was probably playing his cards close to his chest and making out that Connor's going and loan's going back, but actually, and technically he might go back, but actually he'll be turning round again. Coming back down south ASAP. Because I think he's really made a big impression on the team. And I think, it wouldn't surprise me if he stays. To be honest with you,
kind of kids are pretty good techers with their finishing during the lack of appreciation. They're part of front. We might have a spot for him. Probably better pass for the ball than Doherty is. Hey, just kidding. I like Greg. Well, there's something happening. The armband thing supposedly was actually just that they wanted to celebrate what he'd done on the loans. Bugs had been the leader basically off the pitch. Lloyd didn't sound particularly upset about it. I think that he had plenty of opportunities for the captain's armband. And then plus he hasn't done a thanks post too. I don't know. They haven't had the conversations until Monday and Tuesday, so you won't hear from them. I don't know if anybody else has. I don't really follow this stuff. Harry Clarkson was saying goodbye on X yesterday. That wouldn't surprise me. I think you can go and get a better right wing back at much better. I tell you, Sykes and Bree would be a much better wing back duo than they're just better players than Harry Clark is. And I
think Harry being caught in possession yesterday kind of said it was kind of emblematic, really.
Yeah, he's
almost,
really, but not quite.
Yeah, energetic, but as I say, maybe a little bit of a bull in the china shop. And not really. Again, it's that Stockholm syndrome. Running for the light. You've been released. You think, oh yeah, he is much better than what we've had in the past. But he's not good enough to really take us forward. I don't think. Thank him for his service. He gave his all for the badge. But as I say, I think no. Fev's. As he Luke and Fev. Yeah, Luke does suppose Fev. Yeah, I mean again, Fev is, as I say, I think he did okay. But is it that sort of last 2-3 games he looked really good, and is it, are we going to get that? I don't think. As I say, I think he's probably
and
going
the way Stockport price assets as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you necessarily want to get involved in doing that. That's a player that I think if he plays out his contract at Stockport, maybe improves, maybe at the end, maybe on a free next summer. But as I say, I think at right wing back, if that ends up being the option, you can end up with a Sykes and Bree on one side and Edwards.
Bree wants to come back. We know this. That is, I think his wife's family.
Girlfriends in Beckenham. I can tell you that much for free.
So,
I don't know who told me that, but I did. But I have had it confirmed that is in fact true.
Actually, so no, he wants to come back. As I say, he did okay in the Prem. I know. Was it Martin, one of the Southampton vloggers, said actually Bree did quite well, played out of position when they're in the Prem. But yeah, as you say, hopefully. I'm just concerned about Eka. Eka obviously wanted to have a look at him. He's done quite well since he's been there. Yeah. So it may be that Eka.
He's got his turkey hair.
Yeah, what exactly? But Eka might offer him a deal. You see, I mean,
he may do. He may do. I think there's a lot of Southampton fans that say that they won't. But
fine, as I say. But I'm sure, as I say, if the money's right, and as I say, really like that sort of quartet. The Luton quartet from 2022. I mean, it's get the band back together properly.
With
Danny Hilton as well.
Burke.
Exactly.
Bell, Burke.
Clark. Yeah, exactly. The four of them basically, and then obviously Danny Hilton, of course.
Hilton. And then Clark. Yeah, if that happens. And then but Berry's gone sadly. Right. I think we're going to leave this here because we've got another long show. So come join us on the Chronicles. We'll be having. There's some good guests. I know that much is true. And also Tyler is going to be leaving. I can announce that here. So come say goodbye to Tyler on the show as well. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much for someone's put it in here, Robert. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being out on this podcast usually twice a week after this in the Chronicles. Have a good rest, mate. I'm gonna need a good rest. I paid Sam to say this. You're doing a super job, Callum, on this podcast over the season.
Well, you've not paid me, but I'm going to say it anyway, Callum. So yeah, again, echo the thanks. You've done a great job. So long may it continue. Yeah,
and then we're on
to know each other pretty well. So you're good.
Yeah, we've had a good laugh, made some friends. But yes, I will be back in about 6 weeks' time. Once the window opens, as I make the assumption, we'll get a couple of these done pretty early. I don't know if I'll do something on the retained list. I think it's going to be a pretty small number, if I'm honest, unless there's something shocking. And also, I think it's probably going to come out at the end of the week, and I'm flying on Friday, and I'm not doing another thing from where I'm going to be. But for now, enjoy the rest of your evenings. Have a good couple of weeks. Enjoy the start to your summer breaks, and I will see you all in mid-June. All the best. Goodbye for now. Thanks, Paul. See you later.